Jonathan, okay, let's do it again. Here we go. One takes, baby. Jonathan Fibonacci and his homeless documentary. Holy shit, that's too official. Maybe I should be like, thank God for manna. No, literally, that I'm quoting. No, thank God for manna, and how Jonathan Fibonacci and Jesus are going to kind of take this model. We're going to talk about how beautiful of a model that is. So let me kind of do an update. I guess I'm day 89. We call 89 legit homeless. I mean, who else is doing a documentary from homelessness except Jonathan Fibonacci? I mean, there's just some things that only Jonathan Fibonacci can do. So here you go, you know. Gonna kind of use my love of photography and talk about something that's more important to me, that's bigger than Jonathan, bigger than John. And it's homelessness. And you know, a lot of documentaries are about cool things and interesting things and ranty things, and holy shit, the ESPN 30 by 30s, Eddie would go. And here I am. My first documentary is really from homelessness. So let me tell you the story of how Jonathan Fibonacci, college educated, beautiful, handsome, humble, holy shit, goes homeless. And what is homelessness, and who's really having an intelligent discussion about homelessness. And you know, I never thought homelessness would affect me. In fact, I want to first define the word. It's not homeless. I prefer yurtless, or you know, shirtless. But you know, homelessness is really a misnamed phenomenon. And so in my own imperfect way, I'm going to tell the story of homelessness from, well, I'm 41. So I grew up in Oklahoma, and you know, here's the thing. You know, a lot of times, you know, maybe you're not even watching this documentary, and you're kind of going, Jonathan, can you just give us 3 easy steps to fix this shit? You know, these homeless people are bad, and they're all these. But here's the thing. This journey is going to be my documentary, my contribution to a topic, a subject. But homelessness is not a person. Homelessness is an economic state in America, or you know, if I were in Russia, homelessness is there too. So this is the American homeless version. This is the first time I've gone homeless. I am 2 years homeless. This is the 89th day of living legitimately homeless. And you know, I knew I was when I wasn't finding a job in the San Francisco Bay Area. Then I went to LA. That's where I was like, holy shit, I may literally go homeless. Of course, I'm doing what all homeless people do, is I am, you know, relying on friends and family for money. And then of course, you know, friends and family, there's a point where they say, hey, we're done helping. And then, so then eventually people go homeless. And so I wanted to tell the story of homelessness, and I wanted to be as honest as possible and be rigorously honest of how Jonathan went 89 days in homelessness. Now keep in mind, let's put some assumptions on the table, because you know, I want to make this video easy to watch and maybe even entertaining. Can you believe that? A homeless documentary on YouTube? Or maybe I should even, let me go all Jesus on you and say, Academy Award winning documentarian Jonathan Fibonacci and the beautiful Animas River and the story of homelessness. So number one is homelessness is not a person. It's not it's an economic status. So when you call somebody a homeless person, they're not really homeless. Like the joke is, women don't go homeless, they go in Tinder. Well, that's one thing we're going to talk about, is who goes homeless? Well, it's generally men, and we live in kind of a a feminist world where everything's sort of, the future is female. Remember, we had a political candidate that was literally saying, the future is female. And for a lot of people, they just thought that was sort of rah-rah, like go girl power. But when people talk about the future is female, they're really talking about a different thing, almost in terms of Marxism, and how we're not really taking feminism seriously, and how feminism has evolved, and now how feminism is really dangerous to men, even livelihood. If you don't believe me, next time you go shopping anywhere out here in Durango, Colorado, wherever you're at, pay attention to the gender of the person serving you and the age. So there you go. Statistic 2, usually homelessness, there's some beautiful ravens. In fact, let's call them the beautiful ravens. Homelessness is not a person, it's an economic status. It usually affects men, usually middle-aged men. And then, the answers are so simple. And that's one thing I'm learning is the societal view of homelessness. And so here we go. You know, everybody goes homeless a little differently. Some people, the pain, the rigors of homelessness could be so great that, well, what numbs pain? Well, alcohol. Alcoholism is a conversation we need to have with homelessness. We also need to talk about how families and how really these are the people who go homeless. Middle-aged men who don't have friends or family, and how men don't have communities anymore. And so when men have economically bad times, sometimes those economically bad times, there aren't any stopping points. I mean, there aren't, you know, the old expression, we're pulling the stops out. Well, homelessness, or like I like to call yurtlessness, is about economically where men don't have community. And then we have this rah-rah community called feminism. And again, if you don't believe me about that, next time you go shopping, just take a picture of the person serving you. And think of it in terms of like lower wage, you know, because again, homelessness is about economically. So next time you're shopping and you're in a service community, or just pay attention to the gender and the age of the person serving you. And there's part of the problem. And how, I hate to say it as much as I love Fort Lewis out here in Durango, how Fort Lewis really contributes to the homeless problem, because that's where a lot of the lower jobs are going, because they're going to beautiful, beautiful people, not men, not middle-aged men. In fact, my boss, I just had a boss, I think the job lasted 3 days. Beautiful boss, great boss, younger, female, which is fine, except when, you know, I was hired for full-time, and then I went to part-time, then I had this has happened in 3 days. And so I was hired, great job, I got along with the people really well, wonderful place, and then they wanted to kind of cut my hours back. So here you go, the next discussion. Oh, and then I decided to tell them, like, I really need those hours. I was hired as full-time, and here you are already cutting my hours. And, you know, I didn't talk about homelessness, because that is such a stigma that when you say the word homeless, people think you're a bad person. So I didn't. I just mentioned, hey, listen, I had a shift and I was supposed to show up, and I really would like you to honor that commitment. And then I talked about commitment, and then when employees talk about commitment to their bosses, and I said, now, if I didn't show up, that would be a problem, right? They're like, yeah, it'd be a big problem if you didn't show up. I'm talking about this job I had for 3 days. And I said, well, now that I'm part-time, you canceled a shift. That's a really big deal. So she didn't understand that either, because she's never been homeless, and how just literally full-time work for middle-aged men, how that's really becoming harder and harder and harder and harder, especially when a lot of HR people are female. So you have politically, you have Hillary Clinton going, the future is female, kind of Marxism. You have the local economy. Then you have just the statistics, and Google homeless statistics, and nobody's really talking about it. So I thought I'd talk about it. From the woods, 89 days. So here's my story. I'm going to stick it on YouTube. I'd love to hear your comments. How do you get in contact with me? Well, you can't call me because, well, homeless people don't have phones. So I use Wi-Fi and the beautiful library we out here to kind of charge my phone. So you can't call me, which is good, but you can email me, americano417@gmail.com. Here are some ground rules. Number one is I want to kind of stay away from the victim blah, blah, but I want to be real candid about what's driving homelessness, because there are places in this country like San Francisco, Los Angeles. I think God helped me, or has allowed me to see that, because that grieves him. And I think we need to start at least having an honest conversation about yurtlessness or homelessness, and what we can do on a local level, and how the solutions are super simple. And even Jesus Christ said, feed my sheep. So thank God for manna. Jonathan Minogi, Americano. So how are you going to contact me? americano417@gmail.com. So what I hope you'll do, number one, is I want you to watch this video with an open heart. And then be thinking about, if you so desire, be thinking about what you could do in your community to help yurtlessness or homelessness. Even if it's as simple as what Jesus said, feeding my sheep. And so let me ask you a question. Who did you feed today? Next time you go to the store and you get a buy one, get one free sock, give those socks to a yurtless man. You may keep his feet warm. Or maybe you or you're at the store and you just have some bagels, $2 bagels. Feeding a homeless person is literally the mandate of Jesus the Christ, Son of God. So we're going to talk about 501c3s and how churches literally, who are even based upon this man named Jesus, who said, feed my sheep, how in today's society, 2017, I hate to be so cheesy and cheeky here, but in 2017, 99% of churches, if you knocked on their door and said, I'm hungry, that man, that yurtless, homeless, hungry man, would not get fed like Jesus said. He'd probably have the authorities called on him, and that's a whole different discussion. What happens to men when they go homeless? We're going to talk about cause, and we're going to talk about effects, and we're even going to talk about my story from the woods, 89 days. How does a man, college educated, with 5 brothers and sisters, and all of them know that I'm homeless. Now, they say the typical things, get a job. And I want to take a picture of the $37 that I made last night and go, if it weren't for manna, I would eat. If it weren't for manna, I would eat with that money. But it was because I have food that I could use that $37 for things like laundry, basic things like you do. So here you go. This is a long intro to a very complicated topic, Jonathan Fibonacci. So, and if, by the way, if you don't like this video, you don't like this topic, well, you go homeless 89 days, and then I'd like to see where you are. Well, so here you go. I started in the worst. Let's picture time. Enough about Jonathan Fibonacci. I'll tell you the story about how I went from West Texas, how I went from a West Texas civil trial, how I went to, look at that. And what is a Jesus rock? Well, Jesus rock is my lock. Picture time. I guess they say in the documentary world, you got to kind of set the setting, but you can't tell the whole story in one fucking setting. So, without an editor, with no Wi-Fi, just Steve Jobs' invention and a Jesus rock, Jonathan Fibonacci talks about homelessness. So bear with me. Let me get into my studio and let's have a little picture time, because I used to like photography, but now I love photography. And this is the story of how I went homeless. First in West Texas, ran a business for 10 years, how Dodd-Frank, that's a political thing, boom. And how a lot of people call this home. And how there's some exquisiteness in homelessness because people who don't have jobs, don't have families, are coming together in communities. I noticed this on my way up. It's a wheelchair. I haven't seen it before, so boom. And how handicapped people and how homelessness is fatal for them, and who's having that discussion, who's talking about federally protected statuses. And one of my, let's call these people the ravens or the yurtless. These are people who are without homes, or poverty. Because remember, homelessness is really just an economic status. I want to protect the ravens' privacy. Beautiful ravens. I was going to say I'm Fibonacci nigga, but this is just a raven. Beautiful raven in Durango. Some of these are going to be hits and some of these are going to be misses. I may say something that offends you, but you know what? I do not apologize, because I think is even, I just don't apologize, because this is my story. I was living in my truck, and then my truck got repoed, and how that itself is a threshold of homelessness. And are we talking about thresholds of homelessness? Do we even recognize what homeless is? And the irony or paradox. The irony is there's a community of homeless ravens out here in beautiful Durango, juxtaposed with really obscene wealth. And there's nothing wrong with wealth. I'm still a capitalist, even in homelessness. Now, corporatism is a whole different thing. Corporatism was when big banks own senators and they write their own laws and legislation. There you go, a beautiful raven. Again, kind of keep the names synonymous. So what would you do with your heartbreak story? Would you make a documentary? What would be in your bag? Where would you eat? Well, you'd say, I wouldn't do any of that shit, John. I'd just go get with family. Well, Yurtless people are just poor people without friends and family. Again, juxtaposed with all this wealth. I look at that home, and it's such a beautiful home. And one of their like kind of toys that they use probably 2 or 3 days of the month, or maybe 1 month of the year, is a beautiful trailer. Holy shit. And again, I'm not against wealth, but I'm against corporatism. And are we having that discussion? Or are we just building fences? See what I did there? Fences, politics, homelessness, feminism. So what's in your bag? And then how can a homeless documentary be one of the most spiritually awakening experiences of your life? And then you're like, holy shit, if you just study the Bible, Jesus talks about, or study the Bible, please. I like how wealthy people treat homeless people. They go, please stay on the trail. Just do not come into our worlds and talk to us about Dodd-Frank, and do not talk about the 4 economies of Durango. John Fibonacci. It's going to be rigorously honest. So what are the 4 economies? Well, of Durango at least, there's the elite. Of course, there's a plane. Maybe they'll drop some cash on homeless ravens out here. Let's see how that's doing. What are the 4 economies? Sorry. Back to politics. And what can we do about it? Well, I want to provide the cause and effect, but I also want to talk about solutions, because any documentary film really wants you to do something. And one thing I want you guys to do is to at least know the truth about it, how it's affecting men, and cause and effect. And again, if you don't believe me, next time you're in Durango or LA or Manhattan, or I was in Malibu, this journey started in West Texas, the worst place in the world. Don't ever marry a West Texan, because they do not want to leave. And then, of course, I grew up in Duncan, Oklahoma. I was a Duncan demon. Oh, those are the cops in the background. Wonder if they're going to help me find my bike. My Richie got stolen right over here. I even locked it up to itself, and somebody rolled it down. I would go to the police, but yet I'm yurtless or homeless. And usually, when homeless people need, their property given back to us, we need the police to be, to serve and protect. Usually, we're arrested, and that's its own discussion. In fact, the Durango Herald was talking about how jails have a fixed cost, and there's kind of an incentive to throw minorities and homeless people in jail. I know, because I did 2.5 days in the La Plata Ramada for parking tickets. People who have money just pay the fines. And we're having that discussion of literally discrimination on the police level, and how police and Ferguson and the current model of policing that's not serving, it's just basically protecting wealthy people, how that contributes to homelessness, which is just an economic status. And then eventually, homelessness will take somebody. If they don't get out or find employment, of course they don't have phones, how do those jobs call them? So eventually, homelessness, usually men, middle-aged men, without friends and family, usually they succumb. And that's its own phase, and there's phases. I guess you want to think about it like this. There's 50 shades of homelessness. I'll give you 4 of them. There is, there's the John Fibonacci. I lost a business, friends and family. I was kind of a foster child growing up. And then nothing shows you how little family you really have until when you lose your job at 40 years old. Or I lost a business, so I couldn't really pivot out of a business as easily as if you pivoted out of a job. I mean, if you lose a job at a barista, you go to the next coffee shop. Well, when you run a finance company and that industry is license specific, and you lose your licensure and you lose your credit rating, I mean, holy shit, I never knew that my credit rating would be more important than my college degree. But I learned that the hard way. I've learned all kinds of things the hard way. I'm 89 days legit living in the woods. Of course, I lived in my car, my truck, taught at UCLA. That was a beautiful experience. I even did a couple open mics at the Comedy Store. Why is that important? Well, because when you're going homeless, you start talking to Jesus, or you start pursuing things that really matter. When I was in LA, I'm like, I love comedy, and this may be the closest I ever come to the Comedy Store, and I did a couple open mics, and these are just kind of courage steps. And I knew I was yurtless. I knew I was going homeless in LA because I just wasn't finding a job because I didn't have a California driver's license, and how even a driver's license can affect your homelessness. So are we having that discussion? And then maybe if all you want to kind of get out of this is like kind of the Tony Robbins rah-rah, let's use homelessness as a spiritual event, that's okay too. And we'll title that, What's in Your Bag? Because if you really want to know what's important to you, it's the things that you stuff in your car when you're losing your home into foreclosure. Those are the things that your life needs to be about. Everything else you're going to let go. And then the friends and family that go away, tell me those stories. And then, you know, to quote the great Viktor Frankl at the concentration camps, he says, in the camps, the raven niggas. This is Viktor Frankl saying, in the camps, he saw both angels and swine. And he said that from the concentration camps. And here, John Fibonacci, the most beautiful nigga, documentarian, humble, yurtless, homeless, 89. Just call me 88. Because yesterday was my 88th day, and I lost my job of 3 days. Holy shit. And you know why I lost it? Not because I was not doing my job. It was because I was asking them to honor their commitment to me for full-time hours. All right, that's enough. Nobody likes long videos. Oh yeah, what's in your bag? And why homelessness is probably the most important, relevant spiritual discussion. Because when you're dying, and homelessness is a fatal situation, when you are dying, Jesus shows up. The Bible says that he's close to the brokenhearted, and how the book of Psalms matters to me more than ever. So you want to find your heart? You want to find Jesus, the real Jesus? You want to read those words and suck the nectar out of them like he wanted us to through the Holy Spirit? Behold, Holy Spirit. Go homeless. Jesus says, give everything you have to the poor. And I know that's offensive, but what I think Jesus was really saying is it's in our brokenness, it's in our poverty. That's when Jesus is made manifest, and that's my story too, and how I pray for my family. I used to never pray for my family. I pray for them every day because I know they're lost. They know that I'm going homeless, and they know that I've been homeless for 2 years, and they're the first to kick you. So that's the 17th thing that I'll tell you in this little brief video that I hope you'll leave some comments on, or maybe you'll email me your thoughts. Again, Americano, just like the coffee, americano417@gmail.com. This, I'm still going to use this YouTube channel for the things that are interesting to me. But homelessness is kind of a gift. It's something that not everybody, I mean, how many homeless people do you know that are living in the woods 89 days after systemic homelessness for 2 years? But you know what? Praise Jesus, I made $37 yesterday. Serving people, and how serving is so important. And you know, when I ran my mortgage company, I made over $200,000 a year. But I didn't serve people like I did at this hotel, where you're helping people and you're welcoming them. And then again, I lost my job because I was asking them to honor full-time. I was basically just asking them to keep their promises to me, and how homeless men cannot talk that way to these women, HR people, and how literally your company's HR person, which is typically female or run by females, even Manna here in town is run by female. And why are females running homeless shelters? And holy shit, now I'm political again. You guys be good. Leave me your thoughts, questions. If you want to contribute to homelessness, give it to somebody in your local community. Give them $5. You'll see in my videos where I'm saying homeless people get $5. The reason why I'm doing this, I'm trying to encourage you to give and to notice homelessness in your own community. Because Ernest Hemingway said it, for behold, or for whom the bell tolls, for whom the bell tolls. That's an interesting poem. Maybe you'll invite me to your church or your organization. We'll talk about the beautiful ravens, the homeless people, and how to recognize the stages. And is this alcoholism homelessness, or is this a veteran. You know, there's a couple of veterans that I've noticed. One in particular who literally sleeps by the VA office because he still believes that the government that he defended was going to take care of him. And my buddy, I'll just call him Raven Thomas, my beautiful Raven Thomas friend, said recently, he's like, the VA does not give a fuck about me. But I think he still sleeps literally at the footstep of the local government place. And how I wrote an email to, I think his name is Richard, the local VA representative, and said, hey, there's a Raven out here that's dying, and this Richard guy did nothing. And how I think that's literally a criminal offense when your very job is to protect veterans. And I'll show you that letter. Of course, I'll have to find some beautiful woman to read it for me because nobody gives a fuck about homeless people. Nobody gives a fuck about the ravens. I mean, how many times have you fed somebody in the last week? And why is manna here in Durango so beautiful? It's not perfect. There's angels and there's darkness. But how every town needs manna. And how every church that has a 501c3 needs to be feeding people. Or in my opinion, we need to kind of start talking about 501c3 exemptions being pulled back, because if your very religion talks about Jesus Christ, Jesus the Christ, feeding beautiful ravens, but you're not even feeding them, and you're calling the authorities that are just going to push them deeper into it. So problems and solution, causes and effects, maybe a little comedy. Holy shit, those pictures are amazing. Thank God for manna. Thank you for taking this journey with me. I'm going to kind of put about 10 of these videos together. We're going to kind of find a good editor as people drive by, because nobody gives a fuck about ranting homeless people. And how corporatism, not capitalism, and for whom the bell tolls, and Ernest Hemingway and Jonathan Fibonacci. All right, that was it. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Was that pretty good? Wait, sorry about that. Okay. How do I turn this fucking thing on? Okay, I said John Fibonacci. I gave americano417 at gmail.com. I talked about cause and effect. I'm just trying to edit this. Okay, editor, you want to put some cool music in there. You might want to show some cool pictures, you know, like when I was a kid, you know, with some, like, you know, really, you know, like where I was like trophy, like, you know, holla, and then like, you know, I talked about my Red Richie and how they stole my bike and how nobody even gives a fuck, how you know, basically if a homeless person loses a bike, it's like losing a car, but, you know, they're just going to call me fucking homeless. And should I go to the Durango police and just talk to them about Red Richie? Because I really need my bike back. And there's probably about 25 people here in Durango, you know, these men that are older than me, that are less strong than me, that probably need bikes. And what if just all you did is gave a homeless person a bike and $50? You'd probably bless the fuck out of them, and how you might just think, that's hysterical. Jonathan Fibonacci from the woods, 89 days. Opinionated as fuck. My pictures are beautiful. Thank you for taking this journey with me.